Real quick, guys, before we get into the video, I never do this, but the game that's the background game for this video started off really poorly for the survivors when their Cheryl just actively gave up, and the TTV in this game was such a great sport about it. I went back and watched her perspective because I always go back and watch TTV's perspectives that I go against when I'm playing killer, just so I can try to get an idea of how to play better. And also I just like finding new people to watch. And this TTV only has about 230 subscribers as of recording, and they are criminally underrated. They are very funny. They were really good sports. Them and their two friends, who were the last three survivors in the squad, were very, very cool, and I just love the vibes. And so if you guys could do me a huge favor, go check them out. Their link will be at the top of the description. Please go give them some love because they absolutely deserve to have more followers. I think they're criminally underrated. So go check them out and enjoy the rest of the video. I want to get into competitive Dead by Daylight. Not as a player, Sithis. No, I've never been good enough at games mechanically. I've always been better at analytics, strategy, things like that. I want to commit to learning DBD the same way I once learned Overwatch. The ins and outs, the way perks and add-ons work with each other, map theory, killer theory, exact numbers, and maybe someday cast attorney or something. There's just something so fascinating about high-level play, watching as each and every decision is micromanaged to achieve the macro results both sides are looking for, watching the way high-level killer players think as they judge how much a chase is worth, remembering where each of the survivors are at, and what's the best way to get the job done. I love the coordination of high-level teams as they weave in and out of chases, taking protection hits, going down when they need to, when to trade, which gen to hit. It's also fascinating to me, and it does much more to drive that TCG comparison I sometimes make when discussing Drawn to Desserts. Competitive is a great tool for this game, and I think it holds a great spot and could very well be a great esport. What I just said, as honest as it was, has no doubt caused some of you to cringe a bit. The reason being that there's a huge argument in the DBD community right now, whether or not competitiveness belongs in a, quote, party game like Dance Fucker Dance You Never Had a Chance. And to be honest, I feel as if many people have already gone into the comments to tell me how it is a party game, and it's silly to consider a competitive mindset within it. But I implore you to watch this whole video because I feel like this topic has far more nuance than most people give it credit for, and you might think my opening paragraphs will lead into some sort of contrarianism. You're all wrong, I is smarter than you sort of shit, but no, I actually have a lot to say on the topic. Let's start with defining what a party game and a competitive game is, just for our purposes of today's discussion. A party game, in my opinion, is a game that meets three criteria: player versus player, straightforward and easy to understand rules and gameplay, and a distinct lack of stakes. Examples of party games include, but are not limited to, Mario Kart, Mario Party, Among Us, Rocket League, and really any battle royale game. A competitive game is defined as player versus player, can have simple gameplay and rules on the surface, but ultimately more intricacies underneath that make interactions far more complicated, and it has a competitive integrity largely relying on fixed mechanics and a lack of things like luck or imbalance of fairness. Examples include, but are not limited to, League of Legends, Overwatch, and Valorant. In both cases, they can be played as either or. Obviously, you could turn Overwatch into a party in a normal match if everyone decides to fuck around, and Apex Legends has an esports scene despite competitive integrity of that game being completely bollocks because it's both RNG based and third parties can kill you easily. In fact, I would say the line between the two types of games is more blurred than we realize. Both categories have many games that sport both a casual and competitive player base, despite what the original intentions of the developers are. When Texas Chainsaw released, many players were complaining about people like Otts and Hens creating a competitive mindset merely a day from the game's release, with the devs even releasing statements that they only wanted it to be a party game, which I didn't speak on at the time, but I just want to say, and I'm sorry if this sounds harsh, is really naive. The idea that you can release a game like that with multiple escape routes, strategies, role responsibilities, skills and perk trees, etc., and not expect the player base to come up with the most optimal way to do things is just not knowing reality of games. Ever since the Quake era, and probably before, game metas have been a thing. Optimization of the best way to win will always be a thing. You know what other game was meant to be a party game but ended up having one of the largest competitive scenes to date? Super Smash Brothers. It was meant to skirt the norm of traditional fighting games, giving a new life to the genre and creating a genre all on its own. But it was never meant to have tournaments and shit like that, and today it remains one of the most consistent competitive games on the market, with players going so far as to only play Melee on specific TVs so that proper text and frame tracking can be done. But back to it's not delivery, it's DiGiorno's. What category of the definitions I gave earlier does it fall into? And if you haven't noticed by now, it's actually both. It's time to wrap around once again to my TCG, or trading card games for those unaware, comparison that I often make. In TCGs, the level of gameplay on the surface is simple and straightforward. Most TCGs have a basic turn structure, and the complications from the game come from all of the different cards, their effects, and their interactions. There are so many strategies and builds, and the whole thing becomes very complicated very fast. Technically, TCGs are just party games, meant to play with friends, but ultimately there's a lot of competitiveness to them, as a casual player base could never hope to wrap their heads around the amount of shit you need to learn to get past casual play and into even low-level tournaments like locals. Dr. Pepper and Friends is a game that falls very neatly into this same description. It's a game that transcends classic categorizations. A party game at first, but to even get above an entry level, it becomes a competitive game by the sheer amount of shit that goes into a single match. I've often heard the idea that DBD is stale and repetitive, but I don't know if I really buy that train of thought. Sure, it can feel like that when metas are one note, like the dreaded overcharge Call of Eruption Gen Kick meta we had a while back, or before my time we had the Insta Blinds or Decisive Strike metas. But I think as of writing this video, the metas are in a pretty good place right now. Each game, at least where I'm at, has a healthy balance of chases, gen speeds, and even some in-game builds are quite viable. I don't know, maybe it's because I play a variety of killers and builds and also splash in survivor vary builds that the game never feels the same and each match bring new surprises and fun, but I just don't see this stale, oversaturated, boring game people keep going on about. Another common thing I see and that I feel needs addressing here is whenever the concept of balance comes up, there's a group of people who like to pull out, it's just a party game, why do you care so much about balance? And that's just, well, silly. Even if we conceded this was only a party game, why wouldn't we care about balance? Overpowered things with no counterplay that just give the other side a free win isn't fun. It's not engaging, it doesn't challenge you, it feels cheap and obnoxious. Who cares if it's a party game or not? Things should feel balanced and fun. But something I've seen in my comments, even coming from some of my own community at times, is the idea that you can't have fun in this game if you played it in a competitive way. That the reason so many people hate this game is they're always going for wins, and I don't really understand this argument. I think it's fun to play for wins. I always play for wins, unless I'm trying to get survivors to help me with an obnoxious tome quest, and then I just let them all go. But why wouldn't you play the win? That doesn't make sense to me. Just like it doesn't make sense to most people why you would always play to win. Don't get me wrong, I think wanting to play for fun is perfectly reasonable, but I don't think that villainizing the opposite side is something that we should be doing. And I love you guys, you know that, but I also kind of don't believe a lot of you. Hey, Editor Kaiser here. Before we get to the next sentence in this paragraph, I just want to let you guys know I was rewatching this back, and I think that this statement came across kind of wrong, so I want to try to issue like a little bit of clarification. I don't believe that there's anything inherently wrong with complaining about going against sweaty squads or sweaty killers, right? Like if you go against them and you lean back and you're like, fuck, man, another Avengers team. I can't, I just want to have fun and meme around. Or if you go against a sweaty killer and you're like, oh my God, dude, this dude's playing like he's got $10 gazillion on the line. The whole world's watching. Come on, man. I think that, that kind of stuff is reasonable. And in fact, I do that sometimes, but I also think that if you truly don't care about winning, which is a fair stance to take, I think that it shouldn't bother you past like a few minutes. You know what I mean? Like I think on some level you do care about getting the win. I would say, if you don't care about getting the win, then I don't think as many people as I see going off on like multi-paragraph rants would happen, right? Like at some point you do care about whether or not you win the game. Or maybe I'm way off base here. I'm trying to see if I can think of it from a different perspective than that, and I can't. So if you guys have a different perspective on that, I completely understand. I just didn't want this to seem like I was being like, oh, actually, you do care about the win, and here's 50 million reasons why, you fucking losers. I didn't want it to come across that way, and it kind of did. So I just wanted to put this clarification in there. Okay, back to the original video. And yes, playing against Navy SEAL Team 6 or someone trying to actually embody the killer they're playing, slugging for 4K at 5 gens or whatever, can get annoying. Even I, who have slowly started mastering the art of not giving a shit, get annoyed sometimes when I'm trying to play Survivor and the killer is playing like they got Otz's community watching them in a showcase, or when I'm trying to play killer and the survivors start coordinating a tactical nuclear strike to my emblem points. But they are playing the way they have fun, and if you truly don't care about winning, I think these things shouldn't bother you as much as they seem to. Someone somewhere is going to bring up that if I believe this kind of thing, do I think that DBD should have a ranked mode? And the answer is, I don't know anymore. I made an entire video on the possibility of a ranked mode in Daylight by Dead a while back, and you're welcome to watch that video if you want, but the TLDW of it is, I don't think ranked mode should come to the game because ranked modes never accomplish what people think they do. And sometimes I feel like the MMR system, when it decides to work properly, is enough. But as I make this video, read everyone's comments, I wonder if maybe a ranked mode, despite how useless they usually are, might not do something to placate the player base, even if by a little. And look, I don't want this to come off as if you play casual, you're shit, tough luck, DBD is for the Nords, loser, or anything like that. I think you should play the way you have fun, whether that be for wins, for memes, or to stare at Jane's big voluptuous ass, what have you. But I do think that you need to also understand that other people playing the game are also playing the game the way they have fun, and trying to recruit everyone to your idea of fun is not only like trying anal for the first time with no preparation, it's not going to end well and everyone will be miserable and covered in shit by the end of it, but it's also kind of selfish to expect everyone to placate your idea of enjoyment and abandon theirs. Also, it's worth noting that some killers who slug early, tunnel, camp, what have you, and the like aren't trying to win the game because they think winning is fun. They're trying to piss you off and troll you because they think that is fun, and I've done an entire video about that concept as well. But that's the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I fully expect people to disagree with me, and I just want to remind you guys that it is okay to disagree with me. You don't have to say sorry or apologize for disagreements. It's perfectly fine. Just make sure we keep the discussions to what was said here. Try not to bring personal stuff into it. I've been seeing some comments hurling slurs at each other and attacking people's physical appearance, and that will result in a ban. I don't have time for that kind of nonsense in my community. And once again, thank you to my channel member, Nuclear Bomb. If you want to know how to get thanked at the end of videos, plus additional perks, like seeing behind the scenes of upcoming and release videos, as well as a monthly discount code for my merch shop, check out the channel members option below. I love you all, and I will see you in the next one.